The literal output of this research is prolific and diverse. The literal output of this research is prolific and diverse.
There is a lot more about this topic on the university website. There is a lot more about this topic on the university website.
Experts cannot agree on a single definition of intelligence. Experts cannot agree on a single definition of intelligence.
The origin of psychology can be traced back to ancient Greece. The origin of psychology can be traced back to ancient Greece.
The graph shows the population growth in the last century. The graph shows the population growth in the last century.
Students must attend the safety course before entering the engineering workshop. Students must attend the safety course before entering the engineering workshop.
Such behaviors are regarded as a deviation from the norm. Such behaviors are regarded as a deviation from the norm.
He is particularly interested in 18th century French society. He is particularly interested in 18th century French society.
It is expected that all students will have their own laptops. It is expected that all students will have their own laptops. Last week we talked about how people recognize objects and really how well people recognize objects, given how difficult the problem is, given how objects can be seen in all different sorts of illumination, in different positions, in different angles. And yet we are able to extract that information, we are able to take the visual stuff out there, interpret it in a way that allows us to recognize all the different things that we can in our environment. Today we're going to kind of carry on looking at that, but we're gonna look at what's really a special class of objects. That's the human face. So we're going to look at how we recognize human faces, and how we do it quite as well as we do. We're really experts at recognizing faces. So again we can think about how we take that visual information, and how we transform it into a form which allows us to put a name to a face, and to do all the other clever things that we can do with faces. So I'm gonna start off again by just pointing out that it's a hard problem. Face recognition is a hard problem, and it's a clever thing we do. If you think about all the different types of faces you can recognize, and all the different types of information you can get from the face, you kind of start to appreciate how well we can do face recognition.
The major currency of our reward system is dopamine, an important chemical or neurotransmitter. There are many dopamine receptors in the forebrain, but they're not evenly distributed. Certain areas contain dense clusters of receptors, and these dopamine hotspots are a part of our reward system. Drugs like alcohol, nicotine, or heroin send dopamine into overdrive, leading some people to constantly seek that high, in other words, to be addicted. Sugar also causes dopamine to be released, though not as violently as drugs. And sugar is rare among dopamine-inducing foods. Broccoli, for example, has no effect, which probably explains why it's so hard to get kids to eat their veggies. Speaking of healthy foods, let's say you're hungry and decide to eat a balanced meal. You do, and dopamine levels spike in the reward system hotspots. But if you eat that same dish many days in a row, dopamine levels will spike less and less, eventually leveling out. That's because when it comes to food, the brain evolved to pay special attention to new or different tastes. If a driver drives the car, what does a pilot do to the plane?
If a fragile item is not handled carefully, it will get mended or damaged. What is a straight line from the center of a circle called?
What is the place where a suspect is convicted of a crime? What geometric shape are circumference, diameter, and radius related to?